Hey folks, and welcome to the stream. Excuse me. What we're going to look at today is a scrolling credits, which I have implemented last night and this morning. Got a couple of things to finish off there. Got a little frog in my throat. Hang on a second, guys. Just going to clear my throat. Okay, so hopefully that's better. So we're going to look at that. And hopefully Kofi's here. And I'm going to show you how I did this. Then we're going to make slight adjustments to it. And then another thing I looked at last night, which I'll explain to you in a second, and you'll see a bit something weird, is we're going to allow the player to select some colours. Okay? So, let's have a look at this, and I'll show you what I mean. So, first of all, we have a colour wheel, which I was playing about with, which is going to be removed from here, but we are going to allow it in the options, okay? But what I mean by that is, if you look at our screen, everything is kind of the same colour, right? Everything's kind of boring. And if we click on this, it's the same colour, blah, 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 right? Now, while I think it looks pretty clean and nice, I'm guessing that some players won't, okay? So, what we're going to do is we are going to allow the player to change the colour of things. So let me demonstrate. So we have this colour, blue colour here, but say the player wanted it to be red. Well, he can change that to red, like so, or whatever colour they want, right? So this is just working in here, but the idea is kind of the same, right? So that we will pass this across into the game. Okay? So if the player wants it to be the default, they can make it the default kind of colour. But if the player wants to change it, they'll be able to change it. And the intention is to break it up into the text and this, the outline, right? So that it can change both. So this could be green, and then they can change the colour on this part of the text to a different colour, okay? And that gives the player options. Now, that's one thing I wanted to look at. It took me a little while to find an actual plugin for this, but what we've actually done is changed this into a widget. So if I escape that for now, and we go to the main menu, or the FE controller here, okay, we have actually changed it somewhere. Where we changed it, I can't remember. Yeah, it's in the actual main menu widget, right? So, in here, if we look at designer, right, here's the widget here. But what I've actually done is I've actually made a widget out of the widget, okay? and that's going to give us a much nicer sort of way we want it, right? So if you look here, I've made it into this. Okay, so it's got a nice outline, this bit is blacked out, etc, etc. Okay, so if we drag it to where it was, right, it was actually over here somewhere, but as I said, this was just a example, right? But now if I save that and we press play, you'll notice it's a much nicer, more sort of in line with other things type colour picker. Okay, but it doesn't work yet. Okay, but that was the thing we're going to work on. Okay, so next point is we have an error here. Yeah, we've taken this out, right? So we'll just delete that for now, and we shall save that back. Okay, so now on to the second thing, and this is for you guys out there, right? What we did was we made a struct for players, okay, or basically Patreon supporters, or somebody that's contributed to the game in some way, right? So we have their name, if they go in the credits, or if they go in a building name, okay? So if they go in the credits, they go in the credit list. If they go in the building, we're going to add something called the building name, and each building is going to have its own name, which is going to be randomly generated, okay? So we set up a data table, most of which has been kind of copy and pasted, but what we can do is one of the people who pass by quite a lot is this guy here, and if Kofi's watching, Kofi, this is for you. You're in the list at the moment until something changes. We'll save this, and just to show you that it's scrolling properly, I put end user at the end, and we can put something like last words in there just to give it a little bit of not the sameness. So we created a widget called credits, and it is basically looks like this, and there's a scroll box here where we basically get the names from our data table. So we get the controller first, then we get the data table, we get all the rows, then we get the name, we create a widget that's just basically got a name in it, right? And then we add it to our uniform grid, and we basically add the column and the row. Okay, now when we're finished, we start scrolling. Okay, now scroll doesn't start for 5 seconds once we go into here. But basically what we do is we start scrolling. And hey Zenko 3D Studio, how you doing, mate? So we start scrolling, and the scrolling's done on the controller. And basically this is it. We delay 5 seconds, we flip flop, play from start, play from reverse from end. We get the offset at the end, we multiply it by our delta time, which is between 0 and 1. Then we set our scroll offset. And the result is as follows. So if we click there, you'll see that our things game languages, no idea. Don't get your question really. So basically the credits just scroll up and down, okay, from the bottom to the top, or the top to the bottom. So the only thing we need to do here is add a exit button from this, so that it can basically go back to the main menu. But that all works perfectly. And the way you'll get on this list is basically if you support on Patreon, or if you do something else. I don't understand your question, Zenko. Oh, the game languages, yes. I think they're listed. I think it's 3 or 4. Spanish, Chinese, Russian, I think. So yeah, we have our credits. As I said, when somebody actually joins the Patreon, then this will get cleared out completely, and we will actually add real Fabrica Space supporters, okay? No French, I'm afraid. No parlez-vous français? Où est le commissariat? Première rue à gauche. That's about all this French I know, by the way. That was my complete French vocabulary. Yeah, I put it together in about half an hour. As I said, this isn't actually hard to do. I worked all out myself how to do it. The only thing you need to know is the set scroll offset, and basically the get scroll offset of end. Right. And that's basically it. But yeah, it does. It works really well, actually. I'm quite happy with it. It worked out pretty much how I would have hoped, to be fair. Anyway, so we're going to add a button to this so that you can close it. So let's do that. And that's going to be in our credits. So are you working on something yourself, Zenko? Go to design art. It's going to be not in that canvas panel. It's going to be in here. Right, so we do a button. Okay, and we're going to anchor it to the bottom right. And that's probably crap. Okay, so you're going to have to go in this canvas panel then. Okay, I can live with that. So, what we're going to do is anchor it to the bottom right. Then we'll do it by alignment. Okay. So we shall, on the X, it's going to be 0.5. No, it's not. It's going to be 1. In fact, it's going to be more than 1. It's going to be about 1.5, let's say. Okay, and what we'll do is, alright, well, I hope that goes well for you. No reason why it shouldn't. I have used Unity, but it was a while back, shall we say. Right, so what I actually want to do here, right, is I want to get one of our other buttons. So what I'll do here is I'll go to the game. Let's see. And actually, if we go to building details, right, and we go to this button here, we should be able to copy that. And then if we go into here, we can delete that, but we can do that and then put paste. Okay. Now we're going to have to re-anchor it, but that's okay. So we're going to do that and do that. We're going to do 1.5. And we may have to bring this up a bit, just so it doesn't clash with. Yeah, that'll about do it. Save that. Then if we go into our code and we go to designer, we go to button close, unclicked, then remove from parent, and it is going to be self, so that's okay. So we can now check this and press play, go to credits, and you can see that our thing isn't quite working properly. We can close that and exit the game. So that's all working rather lovely, but our button isn't looking too great. That's going to be a bit better, I think. So we just made it size to content. There we go. and close. There we go. Exit that. And that all works rather nicely. So the next thing we need to do is we go back to our main menu and we basically get our color picker and we delete it. Okay. So what type of game is it you're working on, Zenko? 2D you said, but what is it? So really, this is going to be in the options, right? And we're going to have to do a bit of work on the options because our options really don't fit. Well, they do, but the sort of border and stuff does not fit our overall aesthetic anymore. And basically we've now got a use for this. Right, up until then we didn't have a use for the voice, but we knew it was going to change anyway. So we're okay with that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to close this completely because it's getting a bit crowded and we don't really need it anymore. So if we go to main menu and we go to options, then we have our main menu options, which is cool, right? We're going to minimize all of that. We've got our border here, right, which is black. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to change this. I don't know if we're going to get away with this. I don't think we're going to get away with that. I mean, we are, but we're not. I'm going to go with 150. We might need to do a bit of jiggery pokery with this. But the idea here is to wrap this in a canvas panel. Right? And basically do that. We're not going to size it to content. We might actually have messed this up slightly. It was on that. Okay, we're going to undo that. Okay. So we've got a border here. and that's got 0 padding, and this is actually could be okay, right? Because if we actually go to selector and then choose the color, now that ain't gonna look like much right now, but that's because we can change that to 100, change that to 75, change that to 100, change that to 75, right? Hey Zenko, tell us about your game then. What type of game is it? What is it you're making? Right, so this canvas panel here, we can actually now do the padding on it. And with that in mind, we can make it like 25. Yeah, you were saying you're making a 2D game. What is it about? What type of game is it? Is it a shooter? Is it a twin stick shooter? Is it a... What type of twin stick shooter? Sorry, what type of 2D game is it? Right, so we've got this, and basically we can delete this. We can delete that. Then we can delete that. Okay. Then this one, we're not offsetting that by that much. So what we can do is we can make it maybe 100. 125 seems about right. And that's actually looking pretty okay. We can offset the bottom 125. Okay. And then we'll do that. And then in here we can add some text, right? And this is going to be our options. Okay. Now these are all going to change to our value that we put in the options, in fact, but we'll worry about that later. We're going with that. And we're going with 48, probably. And then we're going to spin it to 270. And then we're probably going to go up to 60. Let's see. And then we're going to move it into position. put it about here. Right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in and we're going to kind of line it up with this line here being level with this line here. Okay, so basically there. Okay, so now when we look at this and options, it looks like crap. And that's because we need a border on the whole thing. Or the other way to do it, right? The other way we could do this is we could remove these this widget here, but then we can't really. We could hide all these buttons and then we'd have to hide this as well, right? Now let's have a look to see if, well, we certainly can do it, right? I mean, there's no argument about that. So all we need to do is we need to basically set this canvas panel as a variable. So we just call it CP underscore main. We say is variable. We compile it. Then this probably wouldn't be the final way I do this, but I'll do it this way just now. Let's do it properly, shall we? So it basically isn't in there. So we need to look at button. So if we go into the graph here, if we go to options, we basically get our right, so this is the buttons, right? And that's the controller. So yeah, this would need a little bit of work. This needs a little bit of work, but so what we'll do is variable, we'll say parent, I mean I could just get parent, couldn't I? But then I'd have to cast it to the actual widget. Whereas if I actually make it a variable in here, then we already know what type of widget it is. So W under main. Okay, so we can save that. And then if we go into main, when it creates a button, button, this parent, the expose on spawn, save that, back to here, create widget, refresh, Then we just say self, plug it in there, and now from our button we can automatically reference our thing. So if we go to button and we go to options, which is here, we can bring in parent, get the parent, then we can say CP, get CP main, and then we can basically say set visibility and hidden. Okay, so hopefully that made sense to you guys, what I just did there. This might not be the final way I do it, but it will work for now. It'll work for now, and it will give us a view of our options that we want. Right, so if we click options, that's not looking too bad. Yeah, we're kind of liking that. Obviously, if we do a back, it's going to basically Right, so if we go to our button is going to have that was options. Yeah, if we go to options, we've got this interface call. Right. Do we have I don't think we've got a reference to our parent here. Apparently not. Right, so that being the case, we know what we need to do. We can do parent. We do that. Instance editable, expose on spawn, save that. And then in our main graph, well, actually it's going to be in button, wherever it is. Not in there yet, in here. Right. And we're going to bring these down a bit. Right. And we're going to refresh this. Then we do self. Get a reference to self and plug that in the parent. Ah. What we actually do is we plug that in there. Right, and in options, what we do is we get the parent, we do CP main, we get the CP main, and we set visibility. Whoops, a daisy. Do that, do that, do that. And this is all we're doing here is basically getting ready to do some colors, right? So if we go to options, right, and we go back, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to grab a cigarette and I'm going to let you see the credits rolling, okay? If you want your name on these credits, support on the Patreon and you'll be the first guy on the list. So I'll be back in a second. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Okay guys, we're back. Hope you're still there. So, we can close that down. We can check our options again, which is looking okay, apart from this part in actual fact, which has got like a border on it, which is infringing on my peace of mind. So we're going to have a look at our options, and we're going to look at our borders, and that's not the border we're talking about, it's this one. This border here needs to be like not there. Okay, so that's looking much better. We can certainly work on these buttons as well, but mostly it's this voice thing. And our problem here is it looks like we've got two borders. Right? If I do back, it looks like we've got two borders on our... Let's hit options again. Yeah, that border stayed. Right, okay, the border stayed for the original thing. Right? So we basically need to stop it, right? And in here, it's this border main thing that's killing it. So that is a variable, which is cool. Now what I want to see here is if I make this hidden, right, it's not going to show in there, but if I hide it there, it hides everything. Right, cool. So basically in the buttons we don't do CP main, we actually do border main. Okay. And then in our options we do the same thing. I should have just copied that actually, but hey ho. So this should be border main. Okay, and we plug that in there, then we can move these up, save that, and then this should look better now. So if we click on options, yep, much better. Okay, and now I've got to work out what I'm going to do for this. And how we're going to make it that you can see what's actually going on. Right. So our first thing here, we can basically do that, and do that. And then that's bindings. That's voice. Right, but that's not actually what we want. We want this button here. So this is not going to be button voice. This is going to be text colors. And then we can say game colors. Okay, so you can see there that we've changed it to game colors. And then this is going to be button colors. We can save that. And then on our widget switcher, you can see what that looks like at the moment. And the answer is not very good. So we've got this can CP thing, which is okay. So what I was thinking was, if I did like a grid of 4x4, right? And we had a picture of the particular thing we were changing the color on, right? Right, so we can start changing these. Okay, so we aren't going to have like a mic sensitivity. So right, so let's change this a bit. So we've got mic sensitivity here, right? We're not going to have that. We're going to have like main game menu. Okay, and for the game menu, we're going to have two colors. We're going to have hovered, unhovered. Okay, so what we want here is, so that's game menu, and it's going to be a horizontal box, which it is. Okay, and then we've got a button. That is the button, even though it doesn't actually do anything. Then we've got this. So let's start removing this. Then we remove the slider. Then we remove the less. Okay. So we're into our horizontal box. And we're going to have a text in here. Right? And the text is going to say, not that one, this one. As I said, I'm doing this on the fly, so you'll have to bear with me, guys, till I work out what I actually want to do here. right? So we can put hovered color, right? Then we can put another one, and this is going to be so it's not going to be hover, it's going to be hovered, unhovered color, right? So we're going to have hovered color and unhovered color, and that's quite hard to say. So that's hovered color, unhovered color, right? So we are going to need it so that our right, next thing we're going to need is going to need an image. Right? And it is going to be a variable, and we're going to call it image game button. Okay, and then what we want in here is, let's say, building, right? So this is going to allow us to see what we're actually doing here when we're hitting our color, covered and hovered and unhovered color. Okay. Now, as I said, we're going to have to change this up a bit. Almost certainly. We're going to have to change like the way this thing is done. But I want a general idea at this point what we're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a hovered color. We're going to wrap that in a horizontal box. No, we're not. We're undoing that. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap that in a vertical box. And then we're going to put a button in here. Okay, and this is going to allow us to select the color. Okay, so at this point, oh damn it. At this point, what we could do is we have our horizontal box, right? And we have our button, and apparently, right, we can have a fill on this, so we can put 35 on that, and then we can have this vertical box and we can put 20. And then we can have our unhovered, and that's going to be wrapped in a vertical box as well, possibly. So this is going to be set to 25. Right, so that's 50 plus 35, so this would make it this 15. Okay, so that would be fill and 15. Okay, but that's not really what we want. 10's more like it. But as I said, this is not going to end up how it is. What we'll do is we'll work on it as we go. So we can simulate this. Damn it. So we can duplicate that button and we can put that button in there. And that gives us our two buttons, right? Now this button here. Hey Kofi, how are you, mate? Now that should not, yeah, that should be more like it. And we want the same thing for this button here. And I wish I would stop clicking on that. So that's hover button. Hey, I'm good, mate. I've got something to show you actually. You're going to be quite impressed with this. This is going to be for Patreon supporters, but I have done a credits screen, and for the moment you get a name check on it. Look at this. I'm afraid that as soon as somebody actually supports me on Patreon, this list will get completely obliterated, and then I'll actually be putting in the correct things, the correct names of people who actually support me on Patreon. But for the moment, you and Passer get an honorary mention. So yeah, that was something I worked on last night. And what we're doing at the moment is we are working on updating colours so that the player can decide for themselves what colour of menu they want, right? So we're going to have different examples of this, right? So for example, they're going to be able to decide what colour they want for hovering and unhovering of these buttons, right? So it'll appear as a different colour, right? And then what colour they want for this text and what colour they want for this, for these things. And then probably it'll also work for that. And for all the different buildings, like say we make a refiner, and then also actually like this, the colour of this and the colour of this. So we're going to give them the option of that, which I had working earlier as a very rough estimate of how that's going to work. So the likes of this, the player will be able to decide what colour they actually want. So in fact, let me just do that again. Right, I'll actually put it into the game. Oh, you've seen nothing's Echo. Zenko's been here for a while, so I think I'll give him a demonstration. Right, so we're going to do a new game. And we'll call it Zenk Test. Right. So, first thing, drones. Drones are going to come out and check out the lay of the land. Then they're going to scan. And then this is a bit premature, but then we're going to have minerals found. Right. Then we're going to build a refiner. And what will we research? Will we research probes? Yeah, why not? Close that. Then we'll spin that round. We shall build a smelter. We shall build a fabricator. So we've spun that round. We'll spin that one round. And once this is done, we will spin this one round. Okay, now most of the guys in the chat, my regulars, have seen this before, but they may not have seen that I've changed the conveyor belts. And then we can select this one. We go into there. Then we can select that we're going to make iron sheet. Then we can select we're going to make widgets. Then we are going to actually plug in our miner. And voila, everything starts going. So we have bauxite coming out here. It's going to go into the refiner and come out as iron ore. It's going to go into the smelter as iron ore and come out as iron sheets. Then it's going to go into the fabricator and make widgets. Okay, so you see it now producing out of here. And we can see the iron sheets coming down here. I need to sort the lighting out because you can't see that these are actually iron sheets. And as well as that, you can't really see what the widgets are either, but what we'll do is we shall now connect our widgets to the warehouse. And there's the widgets coming out. You can do them as research as well. So these automatically switch each other off and on depending on the supply point, depending on the supply state at that time. If this is full, it'll stop this machine putting stuff onto the conveyor belt. So once this gets to a certain low point again, it'll start, and there you go, there it starts. So this one is now needing supply, and the same thing happens basically along the whole line. Okay, so there's a little demonstration of what you can do in the game. We also have storage containers. We've made storage containers. We did that yesterday. So we can carry on with that. We have splitters and combiners. You can have a grid, so you can see your different position. It moves along with you. Okay, you can switch that off. So there we go. And we have Ko-fi, we have a couple of new products ready to go just to put in the game, which are, let me show you. Once we get there, where are they? Where are those pesky models? I made these, was it yesterday or the day before? Can't remember. Where are you, models? There you go. Right, so we made copper pipes. We made some copper pipes, which are a bit shiny, but hey ho, first attempt. And we have steel pipes, which are these ones, which aren't quite as shiny, which is a good thing. Well, it depends on the way we look at them. Right, but so we've got 2 new products to go. That we can add into the game at any point and get them into the production chain. So, but what we're working on is this thing here, which is main. Right, now I'm going to show you where this crazy thing is. Is it here? No. Right, so if we go color wheel, right, and we drag it in somewhere, but not there. Right, where is it? Where'd you go? Yes, I use Substance Painter, yeah. Right, so anyway, we're going to size this to cat. What? Where'd that go? Right, apparently there. Right, so what we'll do is we'll move this to somewhere out the way, but not too far out the way, because we want to have a look at this, and I'll show you what I'm attempting to do at the moment in a very brief fashion. Right, so if we select the color widget, get the color widget. No, we don't want to do that, stupid. Right, what we want to do is get a designer and get the color widget, and when it is clicked on, then we put this in here. This will give you a better idea, guys, of what I'm actually trying to do at this point. Right. So what we want to do is, if the player wants to change the colour of this background, right, and this text, we want them to be able to just select and bring up the colour wheel and then basically select the colour, and you'll see that it changes, right? So if they want some nice purpley colour, they can select that, or a red colour, which isn't going to be good, very good with this game, but they can if they like, to make it sort of camouflaged, right? So the point is that, but there's going to be like different things, like this thing here, right? So when in the options, they're going to have to be able to change certain things within the game, right? And certain things are linked together. Like, for example, this and this, right? So if they're changing this border, then they've got two options. They can change the colour of the border, and they can change the text in here. So the idea, and this isn't going to happen at the moment, right? But the idea is for them to be able to change these independently of each other, right? So they can make this always white, but they can change the colour of the border. So they maybe want this green and this white, or they maybe want this green and then this blue, or green, or this purple and this yellow, right? And that's going to change for different things. Like, for example, if we continue, they'll be able to change this, right? So this is going to change the unhovered to a colour and the hovered to a colour. So they maybe want the hovered as purple and the unhovered as white, right? And then maybe in here they want this colour to be a different colour. So it's basically so they can make it as hideous as possible that they want, you know. But it gives the option to the player. Because although some people might like this, the way it's looking, right? If we give them the option to change it, right? And the final idea, and this is where the idea originally came from, right, is there will be parts of each building that you can change the colour of, right? So maybe this pipe here will be a highlighted colour, and you can change the colour of that so that you can basically colour coordinate your buildings, yeah? Anyway, that's the crazy idea. So fundamentally, in the options, I need a way to make this possible. So as you see in the main game menu, you've got the hovered color, unhovered color, which is basically these buttons here, right? And then you're going to have like the info panels, right? And the color of the border and the color of the text. And then in the buildings, you'll have highlight color. And then maybe a different color. You might have two different sets of colors that the player can change. So you'd have the foreground color and the background color. Something like that, right? Or foreground, background, and highlighted colors that you can change. It isn't going to change the texture. It's just going to change the base color. Okay? It just goes with my basic design philosophy when I'm making a game, that if it's in a AAA game, it's going in my game, right? That's my, if possible, right? I can't do everything, but if it's possible for me to put something in a game, and I can put it in the game, it goes in the game, okay? So I'm just working on a way to demonstrate or to give to the player that makes sense and will allow them to actually do this shit, right? And on that, I'm going to go and grab a cigarette, and I shall be back shortly to work again on this, because I'm actually having a good time. It's going to look like crap for a while until I start tidying it up and deciding on a final design. But if I get the functionality in, then all I need to worry about is the actual look of it after that. And we can take it from there. But for the moment, what we're going to do after I come back is we're going to implement the widget that I've made out of the widget, and then we're going to have to implement an interface so that the widget can talk back to any particular part of our whatchamacallit. Well, let's say we'll just work it out, right? So I shall be back in a second. Okay, well, bye Zenko. Thanks for coming. You're always welcome back. So let's have a look at this and see if we can do something here. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, guys. Oh, we've had a couple. Oh, it's party time. We have actually hit over 300 subscribers. Woo! Yay! So, I think what we're going to have to do here, right, is in our options down here somewhere, I think we're going to create an enumerator, right? And it's going to be E menu item type. Okay? Because we need a way to differentiate what... Oh, thanks, Kofi. It seemed a long way off when I first started about 3-4 weeks ago. But we're getting there, we're getting there. Right, so we need a way for our button when we click it. Let me just bring it up to show you exactly what I mean here. We need, when the button is clicked, right, we need to know what button we are referring to, right? And we need to know how it, what it affects, right? Because basically this button and this button are going to do the same thing. They're going to bring up the wheel, okay? So let me just demonstrate that. So on clicked, right, we're going to create a widget. And it's going to be W, I'm pretty sure it's color picker. Yeah. And it's got a variable in it that we pass in. Don't know what that's all about. We'll need to find out. But anyway. That must be something I passed in. I must have made that. Not to worry. So add to viewport, I suppose. But what we're going to tell it is what mode that it's in, what it's going to change in our settings, okay? Give me a second, I've locked the dog in the bedroom. Right, we're back. So we're going to need a way to know what our color picker is referring to at this point. So if we go to here, go to game colors, and then click on this button, you'll notice that the color picker is up here, so we're going to have to change that. We're going to have to do that in the same way that we kind of do this. But we kind of can't, because it doesn't refer to a single widget. So in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll go to here and we'll take this color picker out for a start. right? And now this isn't going to work, so we just delete that. But we kind of do want this, but we kind of don't as well. As I said, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so you'll have to bear with me on this one. So this is why we need a mode of what it's going to change, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do new, and we're going to have to name these in a very specific way so that we know which one actually does what does what, okay? So game menu hovered, okay, and this will be game menu unhovered. Unhovered. Okay. Then we're going to have info screen border. Then we're going to have info screen text. Then we're going to have info screen close button. Right, so these are all going to be colours that we're using and letting the player decide what colours they actually want to have them. Okay, now there's going to be more than that, but this is just for testing purposes at the moment. So these will do for right now. So, in our options, when they do this, we know that the button, we're going to set it, we're going to look for this widget, and we're going to find out what this value is, and it's a new variable, and it's the user widget. Right, now we might not actually need that, but we're going to call this E item to modify, right? And this is going to, well, we can make that be visible, doesn't really matter. And we shall make it expose on spawn, and it's going to be menu, menu item type. So we can save that. Right, now when this comes back, or when we go in, we can refresh the nodes, and for this button, right, we're going to rename this button so that it gives us some sort of idea of what it actually is. So it's going to be game menu hovered. Right, and we'll copy that and this button is going to be unhovered. Okay, we'll save that, and if we now go back to the wrong one, right, it's in options and we go to the graph, we've got hovered, and then basically we can do the exact same thing but for the unhovered button. Okay, and we can kind of line them up. Yeah, that's quite okay. Then we can change that to unhovered. Okay, now our actual designer here, right, it's not that. Our border should be in the center. It should be 0. It should be 0. Then this should be 0.5, 0.5. And that's it, bang in the center, right? Now it looks like we're going to actually have to change this because we need a button that closes it. But we can have a look, right? So now we can look at this, we can click this button, whoops, and it's going to do this. Then we can resume and it puts it in the middle. Then obviously it's not going to do anything at the moment. But on our color picker we actually need the parent as well. So that is a user widget. Okay, so what we're going to do is if we go to options, we do self, and we shall paste that in there. Okay, and when the widget does something, we're going to rename this as user widget, right? And this has got like a where it does something. Right, it's this color widget here, on color changed. Right, so on color changed, we want to pass back to our user widget and we actually want to check what the widget is. Actually, no, we don't. What we do is we do an interface, right? What we can do is an interface. So in our color picker, we're going to add an interface and we're going to call it BPI for blueprint interface, and we're going to say, let's just call it color picker, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to open that up and we're going to say change color, and it's going to have an input of we'll just call it new color again, and I'm pretty sure it's a linear color, so we can do that and we can save that. Okay, and in our widget we can have class settings and we can add this interface. Okay, and then we can say what do I call it? Change color? Yeah, change color message. And then the new color just plugs straight in here. Okay, then in our options, I don't know why that is doing that. We'll leave it at that. Now in our options, we're going to add BPI color picker, and then we're going to say change color. It's already got an interface. We can implement that event. Wait a minute. What we have to do one more thing. In BPI color we need another input. And it's going to be affected item, right? And that's going to be menu item type. So we're going to save that. Then we're going to go back to W. There, that's fine. And then we're going to get this, and and we're going to pass it back. Okay. So now in our options, when it passes this back, we can refresh the nodes. We can basically switch on this. Okay. And that tells us which item we actually want the color picker to affect. And from that, we can decide which item we actually want to affect. So, for example, if we go to the designer, no, we don't. Yeah. Right, what we could do here is we can go to the options. Can save that for now. We can go to designer, and it's going to affect this item here. We're going to set a value in our game instance, right? And we're going to save it. But for the sake of the options, the thing here is going to be affected is this, right? So that is this image game button. Okay. Now we might actually need to pass this in again. But I'm not 100% sure. Well, no, we don't. Right, okay. So we get the image game button. And actually, this should actually be a button. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it with a button. And then we're going to delete this. Yeah, I'm doing good, Mr. Spock. Hope you're doing well yourself. Right, so we need to delete that. And we need to change the name of this to button game menu. Right, and then what we need to do is we need the appearance, we need the style, we need the normal, and it's always going to be this image, right? So it's going to be building. And we can copy that and hovered, we can paste that and pressed, we can paste that. Right, now this is going to be the tint for this. There's going to be the normal and there's going to be the hovered, okay? So if we save that, then we go to our code and we go to game button menu and get, right, and we say, I think we've got to set style. Right, and it's going to be make button style. So this is going to be hovered. So we're going to duplicate that, and then this one is going to be unhovered. Okay. So we are basically going to set this up. Now, this, as I said, we're doing this all completely off the cuff to start with, right? So we're going to have to just work with this and find out what we actually need to do. So we need to make a slate brush. Then we need to select our buildings. And then we need to make a tint. And then that goes in there. And then for the hovered, we need to make a slate brush. Right? And we need to select buildings. Then we're obviously going to have to change the size here. Right? But then we're going to have to add the tint, which is make slate color. And then that's going to go in there. Right, now this isn't going to really work very well. Well, it is, but it's going to take a bit of work to work out the logic here. But what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get the current, like for the normal and the hovered, when normal is the normal, we're basically going to have to get what the current normal is, right? The interesting thing is what it's going to do here, right? I think my logic is kind of right, but we're not getting the defaults right. So if we go to options and then game colors and then we change this and then we resume it, okay, and then we do red. There we go, see it's hovered as red. Okay, so that shows you what it's doing, right? Our problem at the moment is our default is not, we have to set the normal to what the normal is, okay? So from here we're gonna have to get, well, we can't get the style. Well, it's, we might be able to get the style. Yeah, we can. Right? and we break the style button, and the normal goes in here, right? And we do basically the exact same thing for the unhovered version. Okay, we can obviously tidy this up at a different stage, but that just showed you that our interact was working as well. So let's have a look at this. We got game colors, so we set the hovered color, right? We're going to disable that breakpoint and resume. So we're going to set the color to that color. Right, now it's changing the size for some unknown reason. Well, it's not really an unknown reason, but right, so we'll stop that for a minute. We really need the options, game colors. If we do the unhovered, right, see how it immediately turns red, then when we hover over it. So that's good. That's exactly what we want, in effect. Okay, the only thing we need is for this to disappear. Okay, now I'm not 100% sure if it'd be a good idea of when we do that, we actually, when we actually send the when we actually do this, then we could say remove from parent and then self, right, which would do the job for us, but we still need the options here, right? And we need this to go in here, because the button size doesn't give us this, right? So we want normal again, and we want to plug that in there. Right? So if we do this again and we hit this, and then we can change the unhovered to like green, so it's going red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green. You see that? So basically we have got that absolutely working. What we actually probably need to do here is change these buttons to the colour that it currently is, right? But you can see there that it's working perfectly. So currently hovered is red, so we could change it to like purple, and there we go. then we can instant save these, then save them to the save game for the game that they're playing, and then apply them. Okay? But I'm afraid, guys, that's going to be tonight. So, if you've enjoyed the stream, hit the subscribe button, like button. Check out the description for the Patreon, the Discord, and my previous game on Steam. Somebody please be the first person to go on Patreon, because then you get your name in the credits. And the idea here is to have the credits as the beginning time for my stream, right? So this will be the list that's shown for the 10 minutes, 15 minutes before my stream. So you'll get your name up in lights, you'll help make the game, and you'll be just an overall good egg. So with that in mind, guys, I shall bid you a fond farewell and see you at 8 PM Central tonight, where we shall continue with this, and we shall have basically colours coming out of our bottoms. So goodbye for now, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye bye.